great to be able to see. I understand, but I'm going to sit down because I can't be overshadowing my panelists. So let's start with our first topic. Let's kick things off, as they say in the soccer world. What makes a good market for semi-professional soccer? And I'm thinking of that real estate mantra: location, location, location. And incidentally, and Peter's a great trivia person, that first came about in 1929 in a real estate ad in the Chicago Tribune. So a little piece of
location.
Yeah. Interesting. And they were celebrating, or they were advertising for Rogers Park, and they were advertising it as particularly for recreational benefits. So here we are. We need a market. Is it really location, location, location? So John, starting with you, no market has everything. Based on your experience, which market qualities, whether it's venue availability, demographics, population size, or maybe even soccer history, are most critical to building a sustainable club, and why do these matter?
Good morning, everybody. That's interesting. I think the three of us come from different geographical situations currently. So DeKalb County, where we started our club, where I grew up, which was unique because obviously I grew up there. I've been there most of all of my life. We're kind of a rural community, NIU, Northern Illinois University. We're about an hour and a half west of here. For me, the market wasn't a choice of a market, it was a choice to start a club in the market where I lived. So I didn't go out looking for the right situation. But certainly in the early stages around my kitchen table, we had to find a place to play. We had to decide if the community would support it. Being outside of the city, outside of the suburbs really, we have a unique advantage where we don't get lost in the noise on a Saturday night. So when we have a home match during the summer, it can be the biggest thing going, which is fantastic for us if we market it properly. I think that's one thing that we have. Now, from a player recruiting, and everybody's wearing Adidas and Nike, and these are soccer people that care about the players. It's hard to recruit to this island. So one of the questions when I first met with potential sponsors, business owners, influencers in the community that I wanted to hey, I have this idea to start a club. Where are you gonna get your players? Where are you gonna play? How are you gonna pay for it? The minor league baseball team, the college baseball team that was here for 3 years failed. Why are you gonna be different? All those kinds of things. And the answer to that, so that I can pass the mic off, the clearest and honest answer to that when I met with people was, I'm from here, that guy wasn't, and he was kind of on borrowed time coming here and writing big checks. I'm coming here, and we as a community are gonna build this thing together. And ultimately, I've said it many times, if the community doesn't want it, fans don't come out, players don't wanna play, coaches don't wanna coach, I got other things to do with my life. The community is going, you either want it to be here or you don't. And I was willing to try it and do the legwork to get it off the ground, but ultimately the market, like any business, it may not necessarily support either the idea of it or the way you did it. But I had a home field advantage being that I was from there and was able to really pick off all the people in the town that I already knew, already had relationships with. So I had a tremendous head start in creating something from scratch in DeKalb.
Tough to follow. So I probably believe a little less in the location piece of it, just in the sense of I don't think there's a lot of people in this room who came from outside of their community to the community that their team is in to build that. So I think one of the main things I would touch on that I think we need to see a shift in is playing in places that allow you, or that handcuff you less. A lot of us, and there's obviously restrictions wherever we play. If you're from New York, field space is limited, but there's a lot of people that play in high schools. You walk into a high school and you see football lines, you probably can't sell beer there. It's more difficult to promote the personality of the club and the culture of your club when you are tied to like a high school. Doesn't mean you can't be successful there. There's a dozen great examples of clubs that are successful there. But when you start thinking outside the box, a little bit about location, and I think this is more specifically towards the venue. There's a lot of parks departments out there that cannot afford to maintain some of their facilities. So if you can go there, have control of your, you can basically have control of your facility, you can play whatever you want. They're very reasonable when getting a deal done in terms of taking it off of their spend list. So that we play at a place in Tulsa called Hicks Park, and we have kind of a modular stadium set up there, and are looking to continue to build that. But we can sell beer there. When you walk in, it's the team colors. When you walk in, the Joey Ryan entrance is our legendary head coach. So there's a unicorn skull when you walk to the supporter section. So I think finding locations wherein you can express the identity of your club without coming at the expense of money out of your pocket's a really important thing. So I'm gonna leave it there.
If I could just add one or two things that actually tag on to what you gentlemen were saying. I think the game day experience, the opportunity to create a positive game day experience, getting people to want to come back is really critical. And I think some of the elements Sonny was talking about speak to that. And then in terms of the market, I agree. I think at this level, you're not generally going around the country to look at which market is better situated. It's the one you're in because you have the relationships, as John was saying. But if you're in a big market, it's different than if you're in a smaller market. In Chicago, it's so populous that there's literally millions of potential supporters of the team, business and as well as fans and community partners. It's about to me, it's about the ability to create an identity that is attractive to people, that you can build your own community. I mean, even in a populace of 9 million people, if you can cut through all the clutter and find 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people that believe in your mission and your identity, then you can be successful in a large market. I think there's the advantages of millions of potential targets, but the disadvantages of a lot of clutter.
That segues us sort of perfectly into how do you then build a successful brand. And Peter, as someone who's created multiple unique brands, what does it take to create that brand that resonates with the community, feels authentic, and truly reflects your club's identity and values?
I think first you have to be selfless and realize that the identity of the team isn't about the founder of the team or the management or the staff. It's about the community you're trying to serve and the identity of that community. The team I started in Madison, Wisconsin, had a very different identity than the one in Indianapolis because the markets had different values. And this current one in Chicago with House, we leaned into progressive values. In part because I share those values, but also I think I recognize that there's enough people in Chicagoland that will be attracted to that. And then you go about creating those emotional connections, wearing your identity on your sleeve. I don't think enough teams in sports in general in the United States are creating an identity that separates them from the others. If you look at other sports, maybe the Las Vegas Raiders, it's kind of the bad boys. They've created an identity. And some people like that, some don't, but at least they have an identity that will attract those that do. Too many sports teams just want to be non-offensive. You just go middle of the road. And in my opinion, I think then you're risking getting anyone to care about you. I'd rather have people be upset with me than apathetic.
I love that, and John, that makes me think, while a brand is not the logo or the crest, DeKalb County United's crest is truly wonderful. And it's the one in the middle on that thing. And it exudes local pride and identity. So how did you know that your brand was successful?
Well, thank you. And I did not design it. And the unique aspects of that, none of the high schools are green and yellow, and I use black and red. I wanted to stand out from all of that, and the actual name United I don't even like, truthfully, because it's way overdone. But we did some initial polls with community members, and that was one of the 12 options, and of course that's what they picked, which our mission is United Through Soccer, so it's fitting. I wouldn't have picked it, but now I like it. Obviously the rural aspect of DeKalb and DeKalb corn you've probably heard of, and it kind of represented like growing something, which is what we were doing from scratch. So yeah, the logo is not the brand necessarily, but it is identifiable, and we get a ton of compliments. A local artist did it, and I still have all the renderings. Yeah, and there's a little barbed wire across the top, which is kind of a DeKalb thing, but you can't have too much DeKalb because that'll piss off every other little town. So you gotta be really tricky when you're trying to unite a county of different towns that hate each other at the high school level. So you gotta be really kind of clever with how you do it. But anyway, yeah, we thought it worked. Once we saw that, we were like, well, I guess that's the one we're gonna go with. So it's been 7 years now. But
It gets people talking.
it does, yeah. And I think the thing from not the logo but our brand is you guys have values that you exude in all the things that you do and the partnerships that you have. We've almost accidentally, it's terrible, but like when we hear of trauma or like an apartment fire in our community, we kind of swoop in and try to rally and do a joint fundraiser or help create some sort of a benefit thing. Like we're I don't know what that's, you know. Yeah, we're like superheroes, right? Something went wrong and now we're gonna try to help. We're not doing millions of dollars worth of things, but we're able to just kind of like, you know, we get a ton of requests for donations for local schools and things like that. So we try to just sort of be a positive hub of the community, and people know they can come to us and we can try to find a way to help in some way.
Sonny, you are creative and adept at social media. How does social media reinforce your brand, and can you share maybe some strategies for connecting with fans online?
Well, first of all, I think this would segue into get good volunteers, because I think you might be giving credit to someone who doesn't do as much of the social media, but I mean, it's just kind of like, it's where we're at, right? When we started in 2013, you know, Facebook was like a cutting edge thing, but I think just having an openness and the ability to be flexible to try whatever the new thing is, whether it's TikTok or, you know, be bold. If volunteers want to try stuff. You know, going back to what Peter said, I think it's the most important thing is listening, because you're right. You give ownership of what you create away, and you're basically a steward of that. So, you know, if you're the one that runs the social media, or you have people that do it for you, like listening and trying things and being brave and taking risks. I mean, you said it perfectly. It's better to have someone pissed off at you than to not care. So, short answer.
If I could just add, I think the best way to create those emotional connections is one-on-one, in person. In the old days, that's all we did. Player appearances, staff appearances. It's like running for political office. You're kissing babies, shaking hands, making it work. In the modern era, social media becomes a tool that both adds on to that aspect. There's obviously the barrier of a phone or a computer, so I don't think it's as ideal as in person, but then there's opportunities you can do with social media that you can't in person. Particularly, you can reach more people. But it's a way to create those emotional connections, connect with folks, and then have a voice for the team. Use social media. Ford Madison was fortunate to hire a savant, a Twitter savant, who created a voice for Forward Madison that reflected the community. It was quirky. And if you can take advantage of that, and sometimes you're risking going over the line and you may upset people here or there, but personally I'd rather do that occasionally than again have people not care about you or connect with you.
So they've said it, and it probably needs to be said again, that a great brand needs great people to bring it to life. So from my own experience, building a strong team that was willing and able to jump into multiple roles was vital. And in fact, I drove the van or the minibus for my Nets team. Sonny, when you're looking at staff members, what qualities do you prioritize, and how do you determine who is the right fit?
Well, I mean, when you're talking about social media, I think when I've personally seen on social media, 95% of the time it's on a lawnmower or like doing very blue collar work. Like, none of our parents said, hey, go into lower league soccer to build the family fortune. Like, we're here because we love it, we're passionate about it in our community. So, I genuinely love being out there and spending my time out there. And I think that when you do that, it is infectious. So when people come up and they see you working hard for your community, they're gonna wanna figure out a way to, John Model, ladies and gentlemen, they're gonna wanna take part in that as well. So identifying that and finding roles where they can contribute and help take ownership of that as well, that's a crucial piece of what we do at this level, because I can mow a lot of grass, but I can't do it all. Our general manager, I mean, if you were to ask me why we have a star above our crest, it's probably not because of me, and it's probably not because of our players. It's because of a volunteer general manager who keeps us organized, keeps us in line, does travel stuff. So, people are gonna recognize what you do as a way, as a conduit to have impact in their community. So if you're able to identify those people and give them clear roles with things that need to be done, it takes a little bit of work off of your plate. But that too is infectious and will draw other people in that look at your club and say, I love going to the games, but I don't mind helping setting up corner flags before the game, or, you're short a bus driver away to St. Louis this weekend, I get the weekend off. So we're in a unique space just because what we do is tangible. Like, my left back will change your tires on Friday. We don't live in the world of a guy that makes $3 million a week. So we're in a relatable space, and people feel like they can have impact. So I think what I would say is recognize it, allow them that access, and let them go.
So, as you're saying, in this environment, not everyone on the team can be compensated. So how do you decide which roles warrant compensation versus those that need to be filled by volunteers?
Anyone who sets up a tent should probably have to be paid. It's the worst job. No, I mean, like, there's some things around clubs that either are too time and labor intensive that you don't want to do, can't do, or whatever. So recognizing that, we probably all have our unique things that we do and don't like to do. Ours just happens to be tents. But what was the rest of the question? Sorry.
Actually, I was curious if there are any sort of creative staffing solutions that you might have that you've had to work through.
I mean, so incentivization is kind of like the big piece there, right? Like, how do you pay people? How do you, compensate people for the time that they're putting in? And I mean this honestly, when you allow people to become part of the families that we all have here, like, more times than not, that is compensation enough. You should always ask, hey, what can I do for you? Like, can I buy you a beer after the game, or like, whatever you're able to do is important. So recognizing that is a key, but again, the thing that we have, I think that we offer the opportunity for people to see themselves and how they're able to impact their communities through our clubs. So that's a very powerful thing.
One of the things we were able to do in Chicago was create an advisory board that's actually working for us. This started about a year ago, and Valerie, thank you, you stepped up as part of it. When we went to a pro team to a semi-pro team, we lost our staff, and so we have now a smaller volunteer staff. We needed more arms, legs, and brains, and we put it out on LinkedIn looking for advisory board members, and we got literally hundreds. You know, a big part of it is the populace of Chicago, but we got literally hundreds of volunteers to be on this committee, or on this board, and we eventually narrowed it down by asking that they all buy at least 2 season tickets. So it kind of was a tangible way to show support. We have monthly virtual Zoom meetings with them. We've created 9 committees. Some of them are real working committees. Our marketing subcommittee really drives our promotion, our advertising, our social media. We have some amazing creative people that are volunteering their time. They might be ad executives at a big agency Monday to Friday, but they also help us out because they believe in our mission, they believe in our values, and I think they want to peek behind the curtain to see how a soccer team works. So that's one thing that's worked for us. In my experience, when I hire people, I look for 4 qualities. A good work rate, they have good character, they're talented, and they can communicate well. Which, if you can surround yourself with people that have those characteristics, good things will follow.
Nice. John, if I'm not mistaken, your club is largely volunteer run. So where do you find volunteers, and what advice do you have for retaining volunteers and keeping them motivated?
We don't put tents up. We do have beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit, all volunteer. The only people that get paid a stipend are our coaches for both the men's and women's. And they actually almost feel bad taking the stipend because they know the rest of us do so much year round and don't get a stipend. So early on, and I don't know, we should have polled everybody to see how many are already at this level or thinking about this or whatever, but early on, a lot of people you would meet with, boots on the ground, is my phrase, like you gotta go out and talk to people. And they go, hey, if there's anything I can do, let me know. I go, come on, you're on this committee now, right? So you just kind of bootstrap it all together. So anybody that offers to help you find a position for them, and running this club the way we do it is no different than running my real job or like any other business. You have to lead people and set expectations and evaluate, and if somebody's not a good fit, paid or not paid, we're here to improve and grow, and you either respect that that's what we're trying to do and kind of fall in line with what we're, and I'm acting like I'm a disciplinarian, right? I'm happy to have any volunteer, but I will position people where they can be successful. So if somebody's struggling in leading a thing or doesn't communicate, that's a huge problem. When everybody's doing this nights and weekends, the communication's gotta be on point. And we just kind of create that business culture that this is how we are all giving back. And we've offered stipends to someone like our game day director, and she goes, you can offer it, I'm not taking it. You know, okay, well, we didn't offer it yet. But that's the kind of culture that you want. You want people that care about it as much as you do, and that's really hard to find. And we've been fortunate that very few have stayed in the community and left their volunteering with the club. The only ones that have really left they moved town. So you just got to create the culture of what you want to be a part of, and same thing, game days. I'll set up tents. I'll go work concessions. I'll go do whatever. And we've actually evolved. It's wonderful so far. They don't give me the walkie-talkie anymore. They don't put me on the game day staff because they know I'm just going to walk around and BS like people. You know, right? Like that's what we did. We walk around and make connections and tell people to come back next week. So it's building a strong culture that just like any other business.
The thread that seems to be running through all of these strategies is community ties. And clearly no club can thrive without strong community ties, and building those connections ensures that a club becomes part of the local fabric. And Peter, your clubs are celebrated for strong community connections. Who are the key groups or individuals a semi-pro club should prioritize building relationships with? And how do you ensure those connections reflect and include the diversity of your local community?
Well, I think we all think of soccer community first, and it's kind of the low-hanging fruit, and you can't ignore it. I mean, that's important. It's kind of the critical mass of potential fans. But I think of equal importance are the other groups, social organizations, nonprofits, civic organizations, government, businesses, obviously, and they should all be integrated. I mean, what's worked for me is, again, meeting with them in person, influencers in each of those areas. Sit down with them in person, buy them a beer, buy them breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and let them in on the inside of what you're trying to build. Give them an inside look and access to what you're doing, and then ask them, how can we help you in your, whatever they're representing, a business, a nonprofit, organization, a Kiwanis club, and be all ears, listen, and then follow through on it. They'll tell you what you want, and if you are able to do that, you'll have a connection. And then work with each of those to create some sort of partnership. We all obviously look for the cash sponsorship, cash is king, but not everyone can or will do that. But they all have ways to support you, certainly through promotion. It might be through social media or emails or in-store promotion of the team, and then you mutually try to benefit them. It can't be a one-way street. So if you create those connections, they're part of the foundation. You know, the term fabric of the community. That's really what you're trying to do. You want your team to be representative of the community at large, not just the soccer community, but every part of the community. I mean, that's what the sport is around the world. That's why there's so much passion, because the athletes on the field are representing the community. And when they're playing the next town over, or the club on the other side of the city, it's a war. It's trying to prove that my community is better than your community, manifested in the scoreboard at the end of the day.
So both Sonny and John, your clubs are well established in their communities. What are some of the creative ways that you've reached out to local fans or businesses to make those lasting emotional connections?
So in Tulsa, we're in a little bit of a unique situation because we're not a big market, and we had a professional team kind of land on us in 2015, and we had started out, having potential professional league conversations. So, I think that our natural pivot was sort of, we wanted to be like the blue collar working man's team, like we're not the millionaires. So for us, I mean, it was easy for me. I just stayed on the lawnmower. But again, I think what we have, soccer is a cheat code, right? It naturally brings cultures and communities together. So recognizing that and having your personality come through that is a way of attracting people to stay around the club. But yeah, it was, again, Tulsa's a weird one. For us, it was downsizing and really allowing people to see how grassroots things work, which in my opinion is a more powerful message than how New York Red Bulls do next year. The message of, hey, this game can take root in Salina, Kansas, or wherever else, small town. Like that to me is a more powerful message than how big markets do. So I think we all in this room represent that, and I think when all is said and done, that's where I would want to be most impactful, or having been most impactful in the game, is kind of allowing the pathway for people to see that it can succeed in smaller markets where the pro team comes into town or not.
I don't know if we're gonna talk about sponsors. Are we gonna have a specific sponsor question? I don't wanna go on a tangent like I like to do.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things that I've learned, I do this for fun, and some days it is and some days it's not. One of the things I've learned about marketing and outreach and community engagement is that I no longer go in asking for anything. I go in asking how I can help. How can the club help you? What are you working on? You're doing a big oil change sale. Can we help promote that? Why does Hockey Club care about that? Obviously it's a boomerang, right? But I'm willing for us now, especially that we've been around a few years and I don't need that $20 or $200 right now. I'm willing to play the long game and say, let us help you this year. And then once we get the schedule, because we play this dumb summer season, right? And it's like, it's all jammed in. So then it becomes, hey, Jimmy at the oil change place, you want to bring the family out? I'll get tickets, or maybe you'll just be sweet and pay for them or whatever, right? And you play that long game, and then they come out and they see the game day experience, they have a cold beer, and they go, wow, this is great, I didn't know, I've had doctors from the local hospital that I'm friends with that have never been to a game in 6 years came out and goes, I thought you guys were just like a soccer thing. And it's like full game day and drums and all, having fun. And so no matter what you do, sometimes you're not going to connect with it. Social media alone will not do it. Newspaper won't do it. Radio won't do it. My neighbors probably don't even know there's a club in town still. So the potential even in a small market is just, it's on and on and on. But I go back to never go in asking for anything. Go in and ask how you can help. And then they know that your intentions are genuine, right? I always lead with the same thing. Like, obviously we'd love some cash, but I don't want a transactional relationship with people. I want you to feel ownership in the club because it's your club and we represent you.
So now we've got this strong foundation of a community. We've developed an authentic brand, and we've even assembled the right team. Now it's trying to focus on proactive sales, so like you were saying. And whether it's group tickets, season tickets, corporate sponsorships, or single game promotions, they're all essential in driving revenue and sustaining your club. And we'll start with Sonny. Securing group and season ticket sales often requires creativity and persistence. What strategies have been most effective for your club in increasing those sales, and how do you engage local groups or communities to maximize those sales?
Right, and I think we're kind of just saying the same thing on repeat here a little bit. Like, I don't want people to view me as like the owner of the club. I want people to view me as a guy who they can call when they want. So with season tickets, we'll make contact, or I'll personally make contact with all of our season tickets. Now, we don't have 5,000 season ticket holders, but if the list is 400 or 500 people or 100 people or however many people, like, don't underestimate what your voice or a message from you represents to them, because it's greater than you might think. And I mean, for us, it's really that simple. No one should feel like there's someone up on a pedestal at the club. It should be like it's a family. So yeah, it's really easy for me to just kind of be really active in engaging with those who engage with you.
I've put a focus the last few years on attendance is a big revenue driver, and also it validates all your effort in the boardroom, so to speak. I've put a big emphasis the last few years on calling businesses, whether they sponsor or don't, and saying, hey, we'd love to have you out. And post-COVID, one thing that I angled onto was employee retention. I think in every industry was tricky. And like I said, we're an hour and a half west of Chicago. And it's really nice to go, hey, I'm gonna take a bus and we're gonna take employees into the Cubs game and spend 10 grand. And I said, well, you can come to our game and buy a $5 ticket. And businesses have done this, and they set up a giant tent, like rental tents, and cater food in, and they'll have a party for 200 people, you know, for nothing compared to doing that. And they're like, oh, this is right here. I didn't even know this was in our backyard. So that's been a boost when you can get 2 or 3 groups. Then we started doing birthday parties, and they get, I know nobody's on a pedestal, but I tour the kids around, and they get to meet the team.
Yeah.
They get a signed soccer ball, and like, the photo ops are great. It's 20 tickets included for $200 or whatever, and it's a great way for kids to do something different. And again, in a small community, there's like 3 options for birthday parties if you don't want to do it at your own house. So we're solving a summer outdoor activity to get the kids outside. So those are things that have evolved over years of trial and error, things that work and don't work. If we can have 2 companies and a birthday party at every game, it's a huge impact on the attendance, and then the whole game day atmosphere is better. You got screaming kids and chaos, and that's what you really want at this level, is memorable noise. Outside, not in your own house. Outside, run around and just enjoy yourselves, and the kids love it, and it's such an inspiring thing for the youth organizations.
Yeah, that's well said. And at this level, it doesn't take much to move the needle. I mean, we moved our men's team this year from a high school in the city to a college, Elmhurst University, in the suburbs. And we're expecting to increase our attendance from about 400 a game to 800 to 1,000 a game. And it sounds like a lot because it's doubling the attendance, but in raw numbers, it's really not. Another 400 tickets a game, it could be as simple as getting youth soccer clubs out to play pre-games or halftime games, and having each team buy 25 tickets for mom and dad and the player. You play 3 pre-games before, 2 teams each, or even 3 teams across the field. You could get 500 tickets sold just with that. And I try to stress, along the lines of what you were saying, the differentiation of affordability and geography. In a market like Chicago, rather than driving from the western suburbs to the lakefront on a Saturday night and paying $40 to park, not to mention the ticket prices, food and beverage, you can have a family of 4 come out and feed them and have your kids participate in the experience, all for under $100 for the whole family. So, emphasize the differentiation, and then you be both creative in any promotions you do, get people talking about it, even if maybe the promotion itself doesn't directly sell tickets, but if it's a fun enough promotion that people are talking about, it'll benefit. I mean, in Forward Madison, we did a great job with that. And then be proactive, asking for support when you've given support, along the lines of what John was saying earlier.
Do you have any examples of success with any unconventional or low-cost strategies for individual ticket sales or single game ticket sales, which can often, sort of be tricky and require some timely marketing efforts? Is there something, fun about a campaign for an individual game that you've done?
Me?
Sure.
Again, it comes back to identifying what gets traction in your community, and that I think leans back on what your club represents. So, fans like winning, so if you're able to make it into the playoffs and promote that, you can see an uptick in ticket sales. The other thing I would say is try things. I remember sitting at an MPSL owners meeting in Chattanooga Football Club, who went on to be one of the bigger clubs in the country. It was like, whatever you do, don't get a bounce house. I just remember thinking to myself, like, well, what if people like fucking bounce houses? What if you're in a more kid-friendly market and that brings out 200 people? It's like, so I just remember, like, don't really be married to one specific way. Explore trying different things. So, as far as like a campaign for one specific thing, I think we've had, some hits and some misses, but I think that's what you're proud of, is the process of learning. I mean, I think our biggest campaign, this is a little embarrassing to say, but I think our biggest successful campaign was when we lost our 11,000 seat stadium. We're like, hey, it's our last game at this stadium. So, but there can be drivers that are not as sad as that one. So, yeah, be brave, be financially, you know, cautious maybe, but yeah, you gotta see what sticks. You gotta throw a few things at the wall. So I don't really have anything specific that I can give you guys here to say, hey, do this and it'll bring an extra 250 fans, because I know we'd all like to hear that. But you know, what I will say, the good news is, like, there's probably something in your community that'll work in yours that won't work in mine. It's just a matter of going through the process.
I'm gonna brag. So this is terrible, but some of our best attended games were when we did fundraisers for terrible things. Like I said, it's kind of, I don't want that to be what we do all the time, but I also do like that we're able to help. So a couple years ago, we lost a member of our community. She was in my daughter's class. She'd be in 7th grade now, but she died of cancer a couple years ago. So before she passed, we wanted to do something for her, and she was really struggling, and she was in a wheelchair. We played house that day. And I'm a goofball, and I decided, well, let's see if we can get a skydiver to drop in. And we did that. And it was, like, expensive. But we had a jersey made for Maggie, and we dropped in. The skydiver, like, was able to walk up to her, give her a jersey. And I'll get emotional, but her parents, who I was actually with last night, said that was one of the last times that she was running around playing with friends. She wasn't sick that night. And we had, I don't know, 600 something, which we get about 300 to 400 pretty consistently. And we had a lot of new faces that came to the club. We donated a ton of money back. We beat house. But it was one, I remember the result of that one for some reason. But it was one of those things that was like, that's not the trick to get attendance, but it took something that was very emotional to a lot of people, and we put our money behind it. We spent, like I said, a lot of money to have a skydiver drop in. Luckily the weather cooperated. We wanted to make it the most special night, and we still, you know, those are great pictures, and the stands were full. And we had another huge women's game this past year. We lost, we have a youth academy as well, and a deputy officer in our community was killed in the line of duty, and we had a big memorial game for her. And the academy came out in huge numbers on a Sunday night. I think we played at like 6 o'clock on a Sunday night, and had a ton of people at a women's game. And again, it's for terrible, terrible things, but it's equally important to those people, those groups that we helped that day. And that's exactly what the club is supposed to do. It's supposed to help the community. And whether that's one individual family or a business or whatever, like those are the games we remember, which is why I remember the result, Peter. But like that, you can get behind. I've offered also like nonprofits, hey, we'll do a fundraiser, we'll donate 20% of the tickets. 3 people will show up. You try to do something proactive and positive, they're like, I'll do it another time. And so it's terrible that we have to use bad things to motivate people, but it's our way of giving back and serving. And like everybody's in tears, and it's terrible, but it's they're memorable nights, and it validates all the hard work in the offseason.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's the thing that we find most compelling about soccer, is that a lot of times it isn't about kicking the ball. A lot of times it is about these memories and these experiences they have.
Did I tell you we beat house that night?
Yeah.
Everyone on the stage.
I was just going to say, there is one thing in common with these.
We're very generous.
Nice. Who's counting, right? So finally, on the sales part of things, Peter, corporate sponsorships and partnerships can provide crucial support to semi-pro clubs, but they require a clear value proposition. How do you approach marketing to potential corporate sponsors, and what methods have been most successful in securing lasting partnerships?
Some of this may be repetitive from earlier, but with our move to Elmhurst this year, Our community engagement director and myself spent October, November, and early December meeting with all these different organizations, commercial, nonprofit, etc. And we didn't ask for anything. We just, it was educational. We were learning about them, they were learning about us, and we told them all, after the holidays, we're going to get back to you with ways that we feel we can work together based on this conversation. And so we're going through that process now. January, February, March, April is going to be about building those partnership proposals. And some of them will include cash components. Some of them will be just cross-marketing, promotional. Some will just be buying a couple of season tickets or group tickets. Kick back to the community program where they subsidize tickets that we donate to youth organizations or nonprofit groups. So, you know, I want to somewhat customize every one of those. And we right now have a list of 83 folks that we met with in those previous 3 months. I don't think all 83 are going to say yes, but we'd like to find a way to work with every one of them, even if it's small. I'd rather have 50 partnerships of $500 than only 5 partners that come in at a much higher number. Because ultimately, to be sustainable, you want it to be part of the whole community, not just a small part of the community.
We have covered a lot of ground today, so we're going to wrap things up with what one piece of advice would you give someone considering launching a lower division semi-professional team?
Do what Sonny just did. Run. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of work. I think the rewarding part certainly isn't financial. The rewarding part is creating these relationships and giving the community you're representing something to be proud of. And something that they can experience on a regular basis that makes their life better. And I think the work that John has done really exemplifies that.
We beat house again this year. Yeah, this project for us to start DKCU was, I wasn't even aware of amateur semi-pro soccer until like 2015. And then a club down the street started, and we were sending some players there. And I thought, that's ridiculous, we should have that here. And it like Google Doc, and here we go, right? You just kind of start doing it. I will say that, I'm answering the question in a John way. It takes me a minute to get there. We started the club with the foundation of, we are going to be successful despite what everybody thinks. We are going to prove everybody wrong, and we're going to have more passion about it. The first thing you'll realize is nobody cares about it as much as you do. Like, you can hire all the people you want, have all the staff, they're not going to be able to express the vision as much as well as you can. And that's okay, because that can help get to a certain point. But you've got to have this adaptive mentality that is so good in every other thing. All my real jobs, the things that I do for feeding my family, I've learned so much from the soccer club that I've applied to my other jobs and other things that I do and I'm involved with. I've met so many good people, and it's a success. We've been from $0, we've been in the black every year. I run the club like I run my house. If we don't have it, we don't spend it, and you can do it. And if you're, I think there's a lot of youth clubs that are not interested in spending the money to compete at this level. Whole nother tangent. But you can do it, and not be in the negative. You can be, if you can break even. Somebody said it. Carly said it. If you can break even, you can last forever. That's all we're trying to do. So I think it's an awesome level. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll make Sonny talk. The moments, the big games I talked to you about were tremendous. But there's been so many small moments where some kid came out, doesn't play soccer anymore, and said, "Hey, they had such a good time. They're going to sign up and play next fall." And the inspiration for these kids in the community and the uniting things that we've been able to do in our community, it makes the long off season all worth it. All it takes is one home game, and I'm rejuvenated again. And then by July, I'm exhausted. And then we kind of start the cycle over, but it's an amazing level. There's so much flexibility because we're all creating our own adventure.
It's your number one tip for someone wanting to start a lower division semi-pro.
Yeah, it's not beat house, that's easy.
Everyone's doing, apparently everyone does.
Freebies. I think, as much of a tip, I think it's just important to recognize that they're not as much soccer clubs as they are mechanisms of improving your community, right? I mean, apparently we all remember our scores against House, but no one actually remembers my score against St. Louis in 2019. Like, those results come and go. But if through what we do, you're able to impact and make your community better, I think that's the ultimate goal, right? I mean, I think I started this off with, we don't do this to be millionaires. We do it to be sustainable and do it because we're passionate about our communities. So keep it focused on your community and how you can impact and improve it. And I think that that's a cyclical thing that'll end up coming back to you. So I think it's less of a tip and more sort of a philosophy, but that's what we try and do, and it's served us well. We've had lean moments and we've had difficult moments, and I'll talk to every single one of you individually. If you're struggling, if I can help, I'm happy to do so. But the way I look at it is, if we can, be a mechanism to help make my community better, then that's a win. And again, understanding that I think that the people in this room are the most important in the American soccer scene, because we're the ones that bring it to a DeKalb. I mean, if you go to Salina, Kansas, there's nothing to do there on Saturday nights, but proving that this game can grow there and serve to connect people more and more and more, those are the big wins. So, yeah.
I think we'll all be around afterwards if anyone wants to stick around and ask us questions individually.
Or beat house. You can play house.
Everyone does that.
So I thank you for being here, and thank you for all the work that you are doing in your communities and in the sport. And I really want to thank this incredible panelists for sharing their insights with us today. Lower league soccer can be challenging, but with creativity, community, and determination. And I think another thing that we've learned today is being bold, and go for it, try things, that it's possible to build a thriving, sustainable club. And so please follow these teams, connect with them. They are the most, in addition to being the most knowledgeable group, they are the most approachable and giving of their information and their expertise. So be sure to reach out to them. And most importantly, support your local teams. And thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.